Another day, another Leafs game. I love this schedule. Compressed and furious. I love it. I love it. Now, 56 games instead of 82. That's not fun, but pretty much you have hockey almost every other night. At least your favorite team. I mean, there's hockey every night, but the team you follow is at least usually on average probably every other night or so. So last night the Leafs hosted Winnipeg for the first time this season. The first period was about the most typical period of hockey that you'll ever see. It was tight checking for a lot of it, mixed in with the odd bit of action where somebody would get loose and get some chances, and then they'd resume their tight checking again. And in the end, the shots were even at 10-10. The Leafs, though, came out of it with a 2-1 lead. Both goalies actually looked good, despite both of them getting scored on in the first period. But the Leafs opened the scoring about 5.5 minutes in. It was Tavares on the power play, and it was kind of a bit of a scramble around the Winnipeg net. Hellebuck let out a rebound, and Nylander kind of pounced on it from that left side where he usually is on the power play. And I think he really got Hellebuck to bite on the fact that he was just going to take the rebound and shoot it, but he kind of faked that, like, the shot, and then just slipped a nice pass over into the slot for Tavares, who just wired it home through a couple of bodies, one of them not being the goalie because he was down and out on the right side of the net. For a pretty early 1-0 Leaf lead. In the last couple minutes, 18 minutes in or something like that, they would increase the lead to 2-0. Matthews did all the work on this one for the most part. He took off out of his own end and basically just did a lap in the Winnipeg end around the back of the net, then threw it out to the point to Justin Hall, who one-timed it on net. There was a rebound, there was a big scramble. Marner was sitting right in the crease and just scooped a loose puck in, and there you go with 2-0. So, unfortunately, though, and this has happened to the Leafs at least a couple times so far in this early season, is they let in one in the last minute of a period, which, like I said, it's always a killer. You know, you're less than a minute away going to the room 2-0, and then all of a sudden it's 2-1, right? Which is a whole different ball game. So, it was a nice play, but still, it's too bad that time couldn't roll out before they got scored on there. So pretty tight game. In the second period, though, much different story. when I did the last game against Ottawa, and I said the Leafs dominated for most of the game and doubled them in shots and just looked like a vastly superior team. That's what all of the second was like. It took them a couple minutes to get going, but then once they did, it was just these long stretches where they bottled the Jets up in their own end, and they just were ripping shots. At one point they were doubling them in shots. It was 32-16 around there, something like that. But despite that, after getting 2 goals in the first period on 10 shots, I think they fired 22 shots in the second period alone and got 0 goals. So, Hellebuck was earning his paycheck there. So we went to the third period, and as expected, the Jets had a bit of a push. They opened things up a bit, and the Leafs unfortunately ran into some penalty trouble. But a very different thing with the team this year is that their penalty killing, their penalty killing's been not bad in the past. It's had stretches where it's been really good, and then whatever. But so far this year, the penalty killing's been unbelievable. They killed off all 4 chances last night, a couple of them which came in the third period. And I think in the game before against Ottawa, they were 5 for 5 in killing penalties. So that is one area that's really been a big improvement. And even their power play has been really good too. But, I mean, it normally is with all their offensive firepower. So last night they went 1 for 1 on the power play. They only got 1 chance. And went 4 for 4 on the penalty kill. So special teams was perfect last night. And that's been a bit of a trend so far in the early season. Both the power play and the penalty kill has been really good. So that's always a recipe for success. And then Fred was kind of, their best penalty killer, you'd say, right? I fell asleep at like 10 o'clock last night on the couch. I had so much I wanted to get done last night, and woke up at 4 a.m. on the couch and just went, fuck, got nothing done. But yet I'm still yawning. Like, Jesus. I went back to bed at 4 in my real bed, but yeah, I'm still yawning. No matter how much sleep I get, I'm always tired. It's brutal. But anyways, Fred, is usually the case, your goaltender, if he's your best penalty killer, your penalty kill has a great chance at success, and that was the case last night. After 2 shaky games to start the season, Fred looked more like his normal self last night and made a lot of big saves. And the only other lineup note is that Nick Robertson got hurt in the last game. So last night, the Leafs decided to dress 7 defensemen instead of adding an extra forward to the mix. And so they gave the rookie Lettinen a try, I believe, a Finnish prospect that's in their system. So, and he didn't get a ton of ice time, but when he was out there, he looked all right. So it's never bad to have a surplus of D-men. We've all seen that. So yeah, overall the Leafs looked really good. They dominated in faceoffs again. They outshot them by 10 shots. Even the hits in this game were a lot closer. It was only like 31-25 Winnipeg. So rather than they usually get like doubled in hits, right? So so they played a bit more of a physical game. So overall, another really solid game by the Leafs, building on that really good game against Ottawa the last time around. So things are, like I said, I was going to give it a half dozen games before I started to get concerned about their first couple games not being on point exactly, but it looks like they're coming out of that a little bit earlier than I expected, and that's good, because in this season where it's only 56 games, a bad start could probably condemn you to no playoffs, sooner than usual, right? So yeah, so great game, and the Jets. They didn't have Line A in the lineup. He got hurt at practice, I believe, and they were missing a couple of their defensemen. A couple of guys I don't really know. I don't think they're the most important pieces of the puzzle. I mean, Line A is much more important in that regard. But I think of all the Canadian teams that made moves this year, I think the Jets were the least active from what I remember. So, and they've been, over the last half dozen years or so, always been a big contender in the West, and a big team. That can push you around, and always makes it to the playoffs, and has a chance, right? But I think of all the Canadian teams, if I had to pick a team that maybe didn't do enough, or maybe even took a step back or whatever, I'd probably say the Jets. So that's nice to see. But you know what? I hate most of the Canadian teams. It's sad, but it's true. I hate Montreal and Ottawa, obviously. I hate Vancouver. I hate Calgary because of Kachuk, simply because of him. and I hate Winnipeg. So it's really literally in the North Division. I love the Leafs, of course, and I like the Oilers, and everybody else I hate. So it's like, when I'm looking at the highlights, it's like, come on, Leafs and Oilers, But yeah, but it's making for some really good hockey, and some really good rivalries, and you know, every game kind of is an interesting one in this North Division. Whereas when they're playing the regular format, it's like a Wednesday game against Florida. It's like, ugh. Like, I'm gonna watch it, of course, but it just doesn't have that much meaning, really, other than hopefully banking 2 points, sort of thing. So, so this is a weird season, but also kind of a cool one. So, but either way, Leafs had a great performance last night. 2 more points. They're 3-1 now, and I believe they play Wednesday against Edmonton is their first game against the Oil this year. So we will see how the Matthews versus McDavid duel goes, and hopefully I'll be back again with good news. Till then.